At 19, Lena Russo was not your typical college student. While her classmates spent their evenings studying for exams or drinking at frat parties, Lena had an entirely different world waiting for her after class, a world full of shadows, secrets, and danger. Lena had grown up surrounded by whispers. The Russo family was infamous, though they kept a low profile in the city. To outsiders, they were wealthy, respectable, and powerful. But behind closed doors, everyone knew the truth. The Russos were one of the most feared mafia families in the region, running underground operations in gambling, weapons, and extortion. Lena's father, Antonio Russo, was the head of the family, and from a young age, Lena had been trained to follow in his footsteps. But Lena was different from the rest of the family. She had always wanted more than the life of crime that her father had planned for her. She wanted an education, a normal life, and a chance to escape the violent legacy that haunted her. So she went to college, keeping her family's business a secret, hoping she could live in both worlds without anyone knowing. Her secret, however, was about to unravel. It all started when Lena met Eva Blackwood, a girl in her political science class who seemed too cool for school, with her sharp wit and sharper looks. Eva had dark, expressive eyes that always seemed to be studying Lena from across the classroom, as though she could see through the mask Lena wore every day. Lena couldn't help but be drawn to her. They started sitting together in class, sharing notes, and eventually, they were inseparable. It wasn't long before their friendship grew into something more. Late-night study sessions turned into stolen kisses in the library, and weekends were spent together, exploring the city under the pretense of academic interest. Lena had never felt so alive. For the first time in her life, she was letting someone in. But even as her feelings for Eva deepened, Lena knew she couldn't tell her the truth. She couldn't risk exposing Eva to the darkness of her family's world. Then, strange things started happening. It began with little things. Lena's phone would buzz late at night with blocked calls, and she would notice unfamiliar cars parked outside her apartment. At first, she brushed it off as paranoia, but the signs became harder to ignore. Her father's men started showing up at the college, blending in with the crowds, but Lena knew they were watching her. Her father had always been overprotective, but this was different. He seemed on edge, distracted, as though something was happening behind the scenes that he wasn't telling her about. One night, after a particularly heated argument with her father about her future in the family business, Lena found an envelope waiting for her on her dorm room desk. It was unmarked, but inside was a single piece of paper with a message scrawled in black ink. "You're being watched. Don't trust anyone." Lena's blood ran cold. She checked her dorm room, but everything seemed in place. Her heart raced as she tried to figure out who could have left the note. Was it a warning? A threat? And who was watching her? Over the next few days, Lena grew more and more paranoid. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being followed. Every time she turned a corner, it felt like someone was right behind her, just out of sight. And then, there was Eva. Lena couldn't tell if it was her own anxiety or if Eva was acting differently too. Eva seemed distracted, her eyes darting around whenever they were out in public, as though she too was looking over her shoulder. Lena wanted to ask, wanted to confide in her, but something held her back. Could Eva be involved in whatever was happening? One evening, after a long day of classes, Lena's phone buzzed with a message from her father. "Come home. Now it's urgent." Lena knew better than to ignore a summons from her father, especially when he sounded like that. She skipped dinner with Eva and took a cab to her family's estate, her mind racing with worst-case scenarios. Was her father in danger? Was the family under attack? When she arrived, the estate was quiet. Too quiet. Lena's heart pounded in her chest as she entered the house, the familiar dark wood and expensive furniture feeling more like a cage than a home. In the living room, her father was waiting for her. His expression was grim, and beside him stood one of his most trusted men, Marco. "Lena, sit down," her father ordered, his voice tense. She sat, her stomach twisting into knots. "What's going on?" Antonio leaned forward, his eyes burning with a mixture of anger and something Lena rarely saw in him: fear. "There's been a leak in the family. Someone's been feeding information to the feds, And we're this close to being exposed. Lena's breath caught in her throat. What? How is that possible? We're always careful. We thought we were, Antonio said, his voice low. But the evidence is clear. Someone close to us is working against us, and I need to know who. Lena's mind raced. Could this be connected to the strange things that had been happening? The note? The feeling of being watched? Her father looked at her, his eyes narrowing. I need to ask you something, Lena. I need you to be honest with me. Lena's heart skipped a beat. Of course. Antonio exchanged a glance with Marco before turning back to Lena. This girl you've been spending time with, Eva, do you trust her? Lena's blood ran cold. What are you talking about? Eva Blackwood isn't who she says she is, her father said, his voice deadly calm. She's been digging into the family, asking questions. She's connected to law enforcement. We think she's the mole. Lena felt the world tilt beneath her. It couldn't be true. Eva? The girl she had opened her heart to? The girl she had fallen for? Could she really be a spy? No, Lena whispered, shaking her head. That's not possible. We've been watching her for weeks, Marco said, stepping forward. We have proof, Lena. She's been gathering intel on the family. Lena's mind raced as she tried to process the betrayal. Could Ava have been playing her all along? Was their entire relationship a lie? I want you to bring her here, Antonio said, his voice soft but firm. Tonight, we'll deal with her. Lena stared at her father, her chest tight with fear and confusion. She nodded slowly, but inside, she was unraveling. Later that night, Lena sat in her dorm room, her hands trembling as she texted Eva. Come over, we need to talk. When Eva arrived, Lena's heart was in her throat. She opened the door, her eyes searching Eva's face for any sign of guilt, any indication that what her father had said was true. Eva smiled, but there was something tense about it. What's going on? You sounded serious. Lena swallowed hard, closing the door behind her. She felt like she was standing on the edge of a cliff, ready to fall. Are you working with the feds? She blurted out. Ava's face fell, and for a split second, Lena saw the truth in her eyes. Before Eva could answer, Lena's phone buzzed with a message from her father. We're outside. Bring her down. Tears welled up in Lena's eyes as Eva took a step closer. Lena, listen to me. I can explain. But Lena had already made her choice. She opened the door and led Eva into the darkness. The night swallowed them both.